Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk, 888-589-8840. Number to call, 888-589-8840. You know, we got a number of hotly contested races for the Senate in particular this year, including one in Iowa. And the Democrats are running from Obamacare like scalded dogs. I've got a story in the stack today about a number of vulnerable Democrats now are coming out with a platform that is basically built on making these radical changes to Obamacare. Let's see, it includes Mark Begich of Alaska. He's in trouble. Mary Landrieu of Louisiana, she's in big trouble. Mark Warner of Virginia, he's in trouble. All of them now publicly coming out with these major fixes to Obamacare, which means they recognize that this is an anvil around their neck. And I mentioned this before, another piece from Newsbusters here about how the mainstream media, the networks, is simply not covering the horrors of Obamacare. I mentioned, I think, some of this information yesterday, but you've got these horror stories. For instance, this pastor in Iowa covered under Obamacare. He was told just minutes before receiving life-saving chemotherapy that his treatments would not be covered under his Obamacare policy. They were under his previous policy. Now they're not. They've emptied their family savings. They're $50,000 in debt. Did the mainstream media cover that? Absolutely not. Wall Street Journal featured a guest column in February by Ralston College President Stephen Blackwood. His mother was informed. She's on an Obamacare plan. She's told her new plan would not cover her cancer-related medications, and so she's already out of pocket $14,000 for every one of these medications. And this college president said, Obamacare made my mother's old plan illegal, forced her to buy a new plan that would accelerate her disease and death. The Affordable Care Act is a brutal Procrustean disaster. This pastor in Iowa, previous story, said, look, there is no compassion at all in the Affordable Care Act. There's no care in the Affordable Care Act. Here's a 62-year-old Las Vegas man. I told you about this. He signed up for Obamacare coverage through the Nevada State Exchange back in November. Now he's upside down $407,000. He's got bills for $407,000 for the care that he received after his heart attack. Policy was supposed to be in effect for all of the care he received in January and February. Now he has the thing happen December 31st, so maybe you can say, okay, emergency room stuff. But most of his care was started on January 1st and didn't get any help. He's told his insurance plan doesn't cover it, $407,000 in bills. And Newsbusters has got this piece where the mainstream media news outlets, ABC, CBS, NBC, have only told one story since January 1, only one story that featured a victim of Obamacare, only one. And remember, less than 1% of their airtime is even talking about Obamacare at all. That's because the thing is such a total, absolute disaster. So you think about the people that are out there, and if they depend on ABC, NBC, CBS for their news, they have no idea. They have no idea that any of this is going on. As far as they're concerned, everything is hunky-dory because certainly NBC or CBS or ABC would tell me if there was some problem here. Everything's going along swimmingly. There's only been one story in 4 months of or 3 months, any problems with Obamacare. So they think everything is going along just absolutely swimmingly. Now this Bruce Braley, clip 14, he's the Democrat that is running for the Senate in Iowa. Now the incumbent in the other Senate seat is Chuck Grassley. Chuck Grassley is not up for re-election. He was re-elected in 2010. He doesn't stand for re-election until 2016. But because of his seniority in the United States Senate, if the Republicans take control of the Senate, then he will be the head of the Agricultural Committee. He would be next in line, logical choice being from Iowa, and with his seniority, he would be the logical pick to head up the Agricultural Committee and the Judiciary Committee, which is a plum deal. That's where nominees are vetted for the Supreme Court and other places. So this Bruce Braley, he is speaking to trial lawyers in Texas, and listen to what he has to say. I mean, this 38-second soundbite, this could cost him the election. This is a guy from Iowa. He's a trial lawyer, and he's talking in the state of Texas, and he's standing in front of this table that's got all kinds of bottles of booze on it right behind him to the right side in the camera picture. Here's Bruce Braley, wants to be the next senator from Iowa.
To put this in stark contrast, if you help me win this race, you may have someone with your background, your experience, your voice, someone who's been literally fighting tort reform for 30 years in a visible and public way on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Or you might have a farmer from Iowa who never went to law school, never practiced law, serving as the next chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
So you just imagine he just offended every conceivable demographic group in Iowa with that statement. You know, he offended everybody in Iowa by going to Texas and trashing his own state, saying the other senator from the state of Iowa would be an absolute incompetent boob if he was put in charge of the Judiciary Committee. Well, you don't want to go to another state and talk trash about people that are representing your own state. That's not good. He's a trial lawyer talking to trial lawyers, saying to them, look, what we need is another trial lawyer in the United States Senate. This is the least popular profession for people who are voters in the entire United States of America. He insulted every farmer in the state of Iowa. Said, look, basically creating kind of the impression that, hey, Iowa farmers are like these total hicks. They're total hate seeds. They couldn't find the Constitution with a telescope, and yet this incompetent, inept, uneducated hick hayseed farmer could be in charge of the Judiciary Committee. So if he loses, he certainly will deserve to do so. We played the clip from Joni Ernst, and I've asked Rob to cue that back up again. This is Joni Ernst, and one of the reasons I'm replaying this is because she's in the same race. She wants the same Senate seat. She's running in a crowded Republican primary. Bruce Braley is the odds-on favorite to win the Democratic primary. He's almost certainly going to be the Democrat candidate. So Joni Ernst is campaigning in the Republican primary for the opportunity to take a shot at Bruce Braley in the general election in November. And Sarah Palin came out this week and endorsed Joni Ernst, and here was her memorable ad. Just as Bruce Braley's 38 seconds might have cost him the election, so this 30 seconds from Joni Ernst might win her the election.
I'm Joni Ernst. I grew up castrating hogs on an Iowa farm. So when I get to Washington, I'll know how to cut pork.
Joni Ernst, mother, soldier, conservative.
My parents taught us to live within our means. It's time to force Washington to do the same. To cut wasteful spending, repeal Obamacare, and balance the budget. I'm Joni Ernst, and I approve this message because Washington's full of big spenders. Let's make them squeal.
And Sarah Palin adding her endorsement to that message. Now grab clip number 4, Rob, and we can jump back to the Harry Reid clip. And again, the Democrats are trying to massage this thing where there's no question that the deadline has been extended. I mean, they can say that they're not doing it, but they clearly are. They're going to take your word for it. You don't have to give anybody any proof that you tried to sign up before March 31st. They'll take your word for it. You don't even have to, the mandate doesn't even apply to you if you say you've got some kind of hardship. You know, and Jeff was saying on one of the breaks, hey, Obamacare is a hardship. That's my hardship. I'm going to need a hardship exemption. I'm going to claim Obamacare as my hardship exemption from the individual mandate. But so here's Harry Reid, and he's trying to explain why people are having trouble getting signed up for Obamacare. Let's listen.
We have hundreds of thousands of people who tried to sign up and they didn't get through. There was a wonderful piece on public radio a couple of days ago. Connecticut, they're doing extremely well with health care, and what they've done is set up a couple of stores that people can come in and get their health care. It's worked out very well. And listening to that piece reminds me of why we had to extend this time. There are some people who are not like my grandchildren who can handle everything so easily on the internet. And these people need a little extra time. It's not, the example they gave is a 63-year-old woman came in to the store and she said, I almost got it, but every time I just about got there, it would cut me off. we have a lot of people just like this, through no fault of the internet, because people are not educated how to use the internet. So
that's Harry Reid trying to blame the lack of signups on the incompetence and stupidity of senior citizens. But he just betrays his own argument here because he says, look, people have been trying and they can't get through. Well, that's not because they don't know how to use the internet. It's because the exchange, the healthcare.gov website, is absolutely ineptly, spectacularly misdesigned. People can't get through. Even the people that know how to use the internet can't get through. So Harry Reid trying to pass it off on old people just too stupid, too befuddled to be able to use the internet. And I'd be willing to bet that 63-year-old woman, she's probably bought stuff from Amazon and other online dealers routinely. Now, clip 5, this is pollster Celinda Lake. Let's jump into this clip right away. She's a pollster for the Democrats.
What's interesting is your suggestion to Democrats who want to get reelected, don't defend it. Why?
Well, you forgot the second part of the sentence, which is don't defend it, mend it. That doesn't mean repeal it. In fact, only 18% of the public wants to repeal it. But people think there's serious problems, and people also think it's the solution to serious problems. So what we need to do is keep what's good and fix what isn't.
So this is Celinda Lake, and she runs a Battleground Poll is the name of the polling they do. She has a Republican counterpart, Ed Goaz. And so her advice to the Democrats is do not run on Obamacare. Don't run on it. If you're going to mention it at all, you got to talk about what you're going to fix. And then lo and behold, the next day, these 3 Democrat senators come out with this plan to mend it rather than end it. And she's saying, look, this is not a losing message. Running on a platform of let's mend it, not end it, that's not a losing platform. Well, it was in Florida. If you remember, David Jolly took on Alex Sink. She's a high-profile Democrat. And David Jolly ran against Obamacare. The heart of his campaign was to run against Obamacare. He also ran against amnesty, and he won. No name, first-time candidate, beat the Democrat. So Celinda Lake is dead wrong. Focal Point AFR Talk.